Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me today on this month's Healthier You Facebook Live event. In October, we talk about women's health, and ladies, we're here to talk about you today. We know that you lead busy lives and you often set up healthcare for your families. And today we want you to set up healthcare for yourself as well. So stop and pay attention and listen to this important message that we're bringing you. Make yourself a priority. So today we're talking about important screenings that we can do as women. We're talking about breast cancer. We're talking about colon screening. So hope that you're able to join us. As always, if you have a question, please feel free to leave it for us. We'll answer it in real time. I am Katie Pagliaroli, the Vice President of Clinical Operations and Chief Nursing Officer here at Oswego Health. And today I have Ruth Vasquez, a nurse practitioner in our surgical practice, gastroenterologist, Dr. Ajoy Roy, and Carolyn Handville with OCO Cancer Services Program of the North Country. Thank you all for joining me today. We're very happy that you're here. Ruth, I'm going to kind of start with you with a first question here. We talk a lot in October about breast awareness and screening and all of the things that are important for women to do, like self-screening as well as mammograms. So when should those things start for women?
Yeah, thank you, Katie, for inviting me on here today. And of course, breast screening is very important, especially self-awareness. Currently in the US, there are 1 in 8 women who will develop breast cancer in their lifetime. And to be self-aware of what your breasts look like, how they feel, you should definitely start your own self-breast exams at age 20. So that way you know how they look, how they feel, and if any indifferences may arise, you can certainly go to your healthcare provider and make mention of those differences so that way further evaluation can be implemented. With the screenings, with imaging, you first want to start with a risk assessment. There are different models that can be utilized to achieve a risk assessment percentage, where it gives you a prediction of where you would fall with lifetime risk of breast cancer. And depending on that risk assessment will determine if you need screenings sooner or later. So typically age 40 is where you will start with breast screening mammograms. And from there on out will be determined either annually or if you need supplemental screening imaging like MRI or ultrasounds.
Great. Thank you so much. It's important information to use as we get into those ages of life where we should be doing those screenings.
Definitely.
Dr. Roy, my next question is for you. We also know that it's important to screen for colon cancer. I've heard different things, and I'm hoping you can help answer this question, whether to start screening at age 50 or screening at a different age. But what are a few ways that we screen for colon cancer? What's your recommendation for family history? What age should we be screened?
So the first thing I'll address is when to start. So the recommendation of all societies here, including Cancer Society of America, has been to start the colon screening at 45. Earlier we had age 50. With the increasing incidence in the younger age group, they're now recommending that the screening should be done at age 45. Having said that, the CMS still has not approved that. Private insurance companies in general have not denied if we have done any scope at age 45 for screening. So that's number one. That's for the general population. Then we have high-risk population. High-risk population, the commonest one we consider is the one in which there is a first generation, one first degree relative with colon cancer, that's one of your parents or one of your siblings, or 2 second degree relatives, aunts, uncles, grandparents. In that age group, we want screening advanced to age 40. Or if the person who had the cancer had a cancer at a younger age, then 10 years before that, in that stage. So the person who first had cancer in his family is in that stage. And if that person had a colon cancer at age 44, you should be screened at 34. 10 years before in that stage. colon cancer was at the early. Then there are smaller high-risk groups. People who have chronic ulcerative colitis, for example, is another high-risk group. They should be screened after 10 years of having ulcerative colitis, more frequently after that, and yearly after 20 years of having ulcerative. Also, the instances of different types of familial colon cancer syndrome, including familial polyposis, which you get a colonoscopy done as soon as you find out that the person in your family has familial polyposis. Different types of them are Lynch syndrome, adenomatous polyposis. So these are specific groups. In general, when a member of your family is diagnosed with one of these conditions, surgeon or gastroenterologist will tell you that your family members should be screened. So it's also important to stay in touch with your family members in terms of their health, because not everybody talks about what health conditions they're having, particularly if they didn't have cancer, if they have benign conditions. They may have polyposis, and they think it's benign, they don't talk about it. So it's important to know what your family members have. So that's about the age at which we start screening. Now the different methods of the screening. So the gold standard is colonoscopy, because number one, has the highest yield. Colon cancers, 97 to 98% of them will start out as a polyp. You did the screening and you find a polyp, you take it out, that polyp is not going to turn into cancer. If there is adenomatous polyp, it only needs to be followed every 5 years, and we get tons of them. If you don't have any polyp, your next is 10 years. It's not a very frequent examination. The highest yield stage is most sensitive and most specific. More importantly, you can take the polyp out at that time. You do not need a second investigation to find out if there is something or not. Second one that's being advertised quite a bit now is the Cologuard. This test checks for the DNA that are altered from normal and may be found on a colon cancer tissue. It's a good test, but both sensitivity and specificity is low. Sensitivity is, in general, they have checked it for a centimeter polyps. So things smaller than that sometimes get missed. Not every, so cancer, it is sensitive 93 to 95%, polyps is not. Second part is that we also get high incidence of false positives. There's some positive that there is a DNA abnormality. We go and do colonoscopy, we don't find it. So yes, people who are very resistant to the idea of colonoscopy, if they have medical conditions which is better avoided, they can have the Cologuard test done. But in general population, other part also is that sensitivity is not that much, that how test for cancer, it's not test for polyps. So you are essentially diagnosing cancer, not preventing. It is going to improve with time. And as more and more DNA that are found in polyp are included in the test battery, sensitivity will improve. But it's not at the point right now where we can use it as an alternative to colonoscopy. Second part is that if there's a false positive, in other words, you don't have cancer or polyp, but the test is positive, you end up having colonoscopy. And if it's true positive, you end up having colonoscopy. So you are going to have colonoscopy. But it definitely has place. People are very scared. Can convince them, but if they cannot be convinced, very definitely check with it, because something is better than nothing in that disease. And people have very serious medical conditions. We related to their heart, their lung, their breathing conditions. Just physical incapacity, some paralyzed person who simply cannot get cleaned out for a colonoscopy. Maybe a good way of checking to see if they are at high risk. Once you find it positive, you'll have to go for colonoscopy. The other ones that were advised at one time, including barium enema and endoscopy, or just routine checking the stool for occult blood. Their sensitivity is so low that it's not recommended anymore.
Thank you. I think that is such a great amount of information. And if you want to re-listen to that, this is being recorded. So you'll be able to find it on YouTube or Facebook because Dr. Roy, to your point, one of the reasons we want to talk openly about getting screened is to make sure that people feel comfortable. And it can kind of be an uncomfortable process. And do I need a colonoscopy? We've given us a lot of great information about why these screenings are important, looking for polyps. And the best thing to do is talk about your risk with your provider and make sure that you understand what's right for you. And that's great information. Carolyn, for you, North Country Cancer Services Program is a great resource for our community. Can you explain to us what cancer screenings fall in your program and how someone can reach out to access those services?
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie. So Cancer Services Program of the North Country offers free cancer screenings for anyone that's uninsured age 40 to 64. We do screenings in Oswego, Lewis, Jefferson, and St. Lawrence County through a large range of healthcare providers. So Oswego Health is one of our largest partners here in Oswego County, Dr. Roy's office as well. So if you don't have health insurance, it's one quick, easy phone call to our office, phone number 592-0830. We do an intake process, and if you are uninsured, age 40 to 64, breast, cervical, and colon cancer screenings are free to you through this program.
That's great. And I think we'll include that information in our chat as well. Thank you for sharing those numbers. We do have a question from our audience. And Ruth, I'm going to ask you, but certainly anyone can speak up as well. But how do you schedule a mammogram? Do you need to talk with your primary care provider? Can you just call and get it scheduled? What's your recommendation?
Yeah, so certainly definitely go to your primary care first. And if you fall within that range of screening age, your primary care should refer you out to get your imaging done. For Oswego Health breast care, we mostly look at breast concerns with our breast surgeon, Dr. Lai. But usually it's with your primary care, or if you don't have a primary care, you can certainly reach out to the services, cancer services, to actually do those screenings as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I don't think we have any other questions from our audience today. I wanted to thank you all for being with us here as we talk about these important topics for our community members and for each other. We hope that we gave you some great guidelines today on when to get screened for breast and colon cancer and or polyps, as Dr. Roy explained, and some information on how to access those services from our partner Carolyn at OCO. And I thank you for joining us. We're going to be back in November with another topic. As always, if you have things that you want us to talk about, please let us know. We're happy to bring all the information to you right here on Facebook Live. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Bye-bye.